Hi guys, welcome back to the Accelerate Plus Leader Speaker Series. Today we have with us Brenda, who is a LinkedIn strategy coach, and we're going to be talking about all the success, failures, what you should be doing on LinkedIn, and yeah, let's talk about your LinkedIn and let's optimize that. So, hi Brenda, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, very well, Malvika. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show.
For sure, we're so happy to have you here.
Mhm.
So, for starters, why don't you introduce about a little bit about yourself and what is it you do?
Sure. Well, thank you. And so I'm an independent marketing consultant. I worked in the industry, in the marketing industry for many years, and kind of worked my way up through the ranks. Developed a knack for digital and social media. Started to kind of build my personal brand on the side without really realizing what I was doing. But I had an opportunity. We had a leadership change at my organization, and as I like to say, the universe nudged me forward. So as I was starting to look for what was the next for me, I started getting approached by people. Hey, can you help me with my LinkedIn? Can you help me with social media? Can you help me with marketing? And I started to realize, gosh, I could probably put together a business for myself if I started to market myself. So this is what I do. I am an independent marketing consultant, and I help people and businesses unlock the power of LinkedIn. And I'm having an absolute blast doing it.
That's amazing. And I see Miller Marketing, I see LinkedIn Strategy Coach, I
Yes.
see so much all together in one. That is absolutely inspiring and amazing. So you
Thank
said,
you.
without really knowing, I built a personal brand around myself.
Yeah.
What do you
Mhm.
mean when you say that?
So, I was anti-social media back in the day. So I'm going to give you that
Mhm.
little background to start with. And I remember all my friends and back in this was probably the early 2000s. Everybody was on Facebook and sharing family and friend pictures, and I was like very anti. Why do I want to do this? And then I think it was 2006 was when I finally joined LinkedIn, and it
Mhm.
was because one of my respected colleagues who worked in marketing said, "You got to check this out. It's all professional. It's not social." And I said, "Okay, this sounds interesting." So I leaned into it, and I figured out, pretty early on, I think it was 2008, when I wanted to make a career change. I didn't want to go through that black hole of the job search, the monster, the hot jobs, and you apply and you never hear back. And I had done that before, and the recession was going on at that time too. So I said, I'm not going to do the same type of an approach with my job search. So I started stepping up my efforts on LinkedIn, and I realized, it was a different type of way to look for a job. I found a position I was interested in. I applied through the traditional HR route. And then I also figured out who the hiring manager was. At the time, you could see who was that placed the job posting. So I made a direct connection through LinkedIn, and I realized, wow, this is going to change the game in terms of job search, because there's a different way that we can approach these things. If it hadn't been for my efforts on LinkedIn, to reach out to that hiring manager, I wouldn't have gotten the job. I wouldn't be sitting here today. So for me, it's like I learned early on the power of social and digital media. And then I leaned into it for many years as a marketer. And I was always kind of curious, what if I try this? And, then people would start to ask me questions. And I always enjoyed sharing that knowledge. So I started blogging. And I was involved with Toastmasters, a public speaking group, and I was doing webinars and presentations. And occasionally people would come and say, hey, can you train our team on how to use LinkedIn? Can you train these job seekers on how to use LinkedIn? And I always really enjoyed helping and giving back to others. So I guess these are like personality traits of mine. I've always enjoyed learning. I've
Mhm.
been an inquisitive marketer, and I enjoy helping others and giving back. So I was building my personal brand online by doing those things that I enjoyed, and I was helping others through the process. So it's just a way for me, and I'm an introvert at heart. So if anybody's watching this and they're like, I'm an introvert, I can't do this. I'm an introvert. So I actually found through the internet a way to express myself in a way that wasn't intimidating. And I just started leaning into LinkedIn, blogging, webinars, and those types of things. And then I looked up, and one day people were like, wow, I'm seeing you everywhere. I'm like, really? It wasn't the plan. It was just more, I was doing things that I like to do.
Yeah, for sure. And what I'm hearing a lot of is like right now, when we focus on networking, when we focus a lot on reaching out to people, a big part of it is building connections. So, like you
Mhm.
said, that it's a different way to approach people as opposed
Yeah.
to, sending the HR your resume, for example, or applying through the normal route. You're actually building a connection with a real person. And so
Absolutely.
you're building you're building a long-term relationship, and that goes a way longer, like you said, that you
Yeah.
used to host webinars, and then people
Hmm.
would come around to you maybe months later, maybe years later, and then they
Right.
would ask you to train, right? So it's a
Yes.
longer relationship when in the professional world that now the world focuses on and needs
Mhm.
more of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, nowadays too, we always used to say, have you Googled yourself, and that's something, it's a good reminder to do, to do a Google search for your name once or twice a year, and do the same in Bing and Yahoo and the other sites, but see what's coming up for you. And my son, who's 15, he's now starting to apply for his first job. And
Mhm.
he said, and he did had some digital training in 7th grade a few years back, and they were talking about your digital identity online, and that kind of freaked him out. So he kind of locked everything down online, but he's like going to be applying for his first job. And he's like, could they look me up online? And I said, absolutely. And he's like, oh, and I go, why, you have something worried about? And he's like, no, everything I have is either not in my name or, and he's a kid, not in my name,
Mhm.
or it's locked down private. But, everyone, who's watching this, if you haven't Googled yourself lately, do a Google search for yourself, see what comes up. And I'm all for separating, kind of work and school and professional things, but make sure that there are clear privacy controls in place. So if you don't want the certain people seeing your posts and your activities and your viewpoints, you should be locking that down. But I'm a believer, Malika, that I think you should be professionally social at all times. You
Mhm.
know, I'm never going to post something online that I wouldn't want my favorite client to see, or a prospective client, or if you're in the case of a job seeker, your hiring manager who's sitting next to you going, did you just post that? Like, you don't want to do that. Or a family member that you trust, or somebody that you respect. Think about it through that lens, and then if it doesn't align, then don't post it. Then you have nothing to worry about. But even more importantly, think about the brand that you're trying to create for yourself online. And even if you are just getting started, even if you have no experience yet, you can still start a blog. I use LinkedIn, use the blogging module through there, and just start talking about what you're learning in class and why it is interesting to you. You can start to build your brand by doing things like that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought it up. The fact that people think personal brand is this one thing that we do, as
Yeah.
opposed to who we are, which is actually our personal brand, right? So
Yeah.
it can be shown in different ways, like you said. Social media
Mhm.
filtering was one of the first things I did when I was getting into the professional world as well,
Yeah.
because I wanted to make sure that what I'm putting out there about myself is
Mhm.
consistent across all platforms and across all mediums. I think that is a very important thing that people need to focus on, especially early on in their careers when they're
Absolutely.
starting out.
Mhm.
What are some of the successes that people see on LinkedIn? Like, what is,
Mhm.
or if you had to pick one thing to see almost instant success or instant results, what would
Mhm.
you pick?
Post today on LinkedIn. And when you post, talk about someone else. So like, use this video. You're watching this video, if you're watching this, like, pause it, go onto LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm watching this amazing video with, at Melvika Aaron, you'll tag Melvika, and at Brenda Mahler, tag both of us. And here is something I'm learning about developing my personal brand. And do this every time you're in an educational webinar or a virtual meetup or an event. I mean, nowadays we're in this time of, like, everything's virtual and everything's online. There's so much content. And like, what I do is, when I'm in sessions like this, whether it's just 2 people or 30 people, I'll do a screen clip, or I'll literally grab my phone. We always have these with us, right? I'll grab my phone, turn it sideways, and then take a picture of the screen. I'm actually going to do this because I'm going to post this on LinkedIn. And then I will share that on LinkedIn, and I will talk about what is in the picture, who's in the picture, what the event was, where you can learn more about it, and use it to create social media karma for other people. That's a simple way. And then when you tag people in the post, both Malvika and I will get a notification. We'll probably both go on the post and thank you and add some commentary to it, which then broadcasts that message out to more people in your network. She and I both have large networks, so you're getting the benefit of folks in our network seeing it. So that's an easy technique. And you all you have to do is, you have to have a LinkedIn account, and you have to have the confidence to go out and do the post. So if you need help with that, message me. I want to help you with that process. but that's an easy thing, just start posting. It's like people when they're like scared to jump into the deep end of the pool, it's cold, it's too deep. Just do it. The water's fine.
Yeah, and I think it's also a great way to show that you're building on these skills that you might not have had in the past, right? Because
Absolutely.
I was hosting a webinar yesterday, and one of the questions that constantly came up and was so common across all students and professionals was that,
Yeah.
how do I bridge that gap? How do I build those skills that I don't necessarily have for the
Right.
role that I'm seeking right now? And so a great way for you to do is, if you're taking a course, if you're going to a webinar, if
Yes.
you're networking with someone, go post it on LinkedIn. So it's for people to see that you're in progress of doing that. And that
Absolutely.
shows initiative, that shows leadership, and that puts you in a really, really good place professionally.
If I could add to that too, one other thing is every time you're in a class where there's a guest lecturer, or you're attending a webinar, you're at a virtual event, think of one question you can ask that person. And at some point they're going to say, does anyone have any questions? And I don't know if you guys have ever been in a session where nobody asks a question, and it's awkward for the host, it's awkward for the speaker. There's that part of it, but the other part is like the one or two people who do ask a very thoughtful question, think about the amount of visibility they've gained for themselves. And you can create subject matter expertise, and you can create, thought leadership around a subject by starting to get engaged in the subject. And it doesn't mean you have to know everything, but just start participating and start getting yourself into the conversation. I know that when people ask me a question in the session, I remember them, so you're starting to build alliances and connections with people who maybe are a few steps ahead of you, a few years ahead of you in your career as well. So think about asking a question.
For sure. And also following up is so powerful. Like you
Yeah.
said, asking a question, maybe follow up with them on LinkedIn after and stay connected with them. If they're delivering a seminar to 3,000 students and only 2 of them follow up, those 2 are way ahead than the others in that
Absolutely.
perspective, in the eyes of the professional, for sure. What is one thing that people should refrain doing on LinkedIn? Like, what is one mistake you see that people often make on LinkedIn?
Only making it about themselves. So when they are posting, they are selling, and I see a lot of people, it's a very self-serving type of a message, or they might use like an automated tool to push something out every day, but they are never engaging. So I'm a big believer in the success of LinkedIn is based on social media karma, paying it forward, that comes back to you, and then you post something for yourself. So if it's not posting, is a minor mistake. A bigger mistake is like posting only for yourself and only using the network for your own purposes. You really have to balance that out with kind of the network engagement, going through the homepage feed, liking and commenting on other people's posts as well. So making it more of like a community type of engagement versus just a one-way taking or posting to the network, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think, just to add on to that, one thing about the community that you said really got to me and really touched me, because so many people who send out invites that are not personalized,
Yeah.
That's another way for you to show that you are interested in the person, in their story, as opposed to just adding them on your network, right? So you
Yeah.
want people in your network who care about you, and that's why personalized message is such a powerful way to like go out there and show them, I want to know your story and I care
Yeah.
about you, and I want to connect further.
Yeah. And a tip I would offer to people, when you are sending a personalized invitation on LinkedIn, and I highly recommend do this every single time, make the invitation all about them. At the invitation phase, it's not about you and what you're looking for. The invitation, the goal of that invitation is to get the invitation accepted. So you're going to have a higher likelihood of them accepting your invitation if you're making it all about them. So for example, if you don't know the person, look at their profile, find 1 or 2 things that are interesting or 1 or 2 things that you have in common. So I might reach out to a person and say, hi, Deanna, we haven't met, but I see that we're both in Metro Detroit and we both attended Central Michigan University, fire up chips. Let's connect on LinkedIn or something, and something that I'm seeing on the profile that we have in common. Let's connect on LinkedIn. And then after, Deanna accepts, that's when I might follow up and say, thanks, Deanna, for accepting my invitation. I'm a marketing student right now at Central Michigan, and I'm thinking about becoming a marketing manager, and I see that's a role that you hold. Would you be open to an informational interview sometime? I'm not asking for a job, just wanted to ask you for some advice. So now you've built in trust, by making that invitation all about Deanna, you have a higher likelihood that she's going to accept that. And then you've got some rapport going there. And I think that can be a very powerful technique for a college student.
Hmm. And just going off of that, how do you think people can go forward after getting their invitation accepted,
Yeah.
and how do they roll on from there?
Yeah, so every invitation that is sent out, whether you're sending it or someone sends it to you and accept it, I would follow up with some dialogue. Just a quick, short message. You don't need to write your whole life story in there, but I like to, an invitation that is accepted is a gift that's been given to you. So a thank you would be appropriate. So if you send an invitation, thank you for accepting my invitation. If you send it to them and they accept it, you can still say, thank you for accepting my invitation. You've got a connection that's in play there. And then follow up with a brief note. I like to do a soft pitch at this point, nothing too heavy. And in the case of, the earlier example is kind of letting them know what I'm looking for, asking for that informational interview. If there's no ask, there's nothing immediate you need from the person, still say, thanks for accepting my invitation, Tom. I look forward to watching your posts about marketing on LinkedIn. So just, kind of something, just break
Mhm.
yourself out from every other person out there who never replies back. Be one of the very few that puts a thoughtful reply back to that person. And it can be very key in relationship building.
Absolutely. I really like that idea. I definitely agree with what you said about, being thoughtful is a very important key message here. The goal is not for you to get a referral. The goal is to get you to build a relationship with that person
Yeah.
and be thoughtful about them.
Mhm.
Okay, and I was just wondering, so there's this constant debate with LinkedIn where it's like,
Mhm.
should I engage in gradual growth of my network by connecting with them and building relationships with them? So I might have 300 connections today, and then I might have 400 maybe like a month from now or 2 months from now, which is a much slower growth as compared to me sending out mass invitations and then growing my network quickly but impersonalized. What do you think about that?
I think, quality over quantity. I've been on the network since 2006, and I think 15,000 connections and a little over 35,000
Mhm,
followers. So there's two paths. You can either connect with someone or you can follow someone. If
mhm,
if any of the folks watching this session today go to my profile, you're going to see the default follow button, and that's easy. You just click on follow, and then you can automatically start to see my posts on LinkedIn. If you wanted to connect with me, you have to go to the more button and then personalize a
mhm,
note and send it to me. And I screen in all invitations as well. But I have slowly built that up, that the following, both from people who reach out to connect with me and then people that I seek to connect with. So what I do is every time I'm at a networking event, if I meet people that seem like they'd be good connections, I will send them an invitation. Do I send it to every single person? No, because not every single person is going to be a good fit for me. So I've slowly and gradually built it up, but always intentionally, never in a mass format. I know there's some LinkedIn
mhm,
helper tools and things like that out there that you
mhm.
plug in, and you've probably heard of some of these. You plug in your lead criteria, and then they use a semi-automated format
Mm,
and they push it through. And it's actually, many of these are not allowed according to the LinkedIn terms of service. So you might get away with it for a while, but as soon as LinkedIn senses that technology integrating with your account, you can get your account locked up and kicked off of the network if you continue to do so. What I don't like about that is it feels very artificial as well. The messages are not personalized. They're things like, hey, can you believe this crazy times that we're in today? I'm focused on growing my network. Let's connect, and it's a very cold and personal. It feels like a templated message. And I don't think you're going to get as many quality invitations from that response, nor are you going to get some really good dialogue. And there's going to be a lot of people who see through that. They see that it's a templated approach, and they're not going to accept the invitation. So it's not a popularity contest. I mean, you got to think about what are your goals and how you're using LinkedIn, and growing your network slowly and strategically is better than trying to be a celebrity on LinkedIn overnight, because that's not what this is about. This is a professional networking site. It is a tool that you should use to help to support you in your business and in your career. But it's not, it's not like being on TikTok and I've got 5 million followers. It's not that. It's a professional networking site. It's a different type of an approach you want to take.
for sure. So what I'm hearing is it's not instant gratification that you need from this platform. It's
No,
a longer term goal. It
it's a
is,
longer
and
game for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So just to wrap this up,
Yeah.
what are some actionable steps that the viewers can take today, uh,
Mhm.
going forward to improving their personal brand on LinkedIn?
Really great question. So I'm a big believer in social media karma. So I'm going to give you some tips that are going to help you, but they're going to help others at the same time. So here's one thing. Think about folks that you work with, you went to school with, maybe you're studying with right now. Go on their LinkedIn profile, endorse them for their top 3 skills, and maybe give 2 or 3 of those people a LinkedIn recommendation. So help them by giving visibility to them. It's going to make them feel good about themselves. You know, they're building up their profile with that content that you're adding to it. So that's one thing that you can do. Another thing is, you know, if you're not already connected to myself and Malvika, send us an invitation. Mention this video. Tell us something that was helpful in the video in your invitation. And remember, when you go to my profile, you're going to see the follow button. You have to go to the more button, and then underneath more, you'll see an option to personalize invite. So use that as an option. And then the third thing is to go onto LinkedIn and post something today, whether it's about watching this video or about an industry news article or commenting on something else, you know, sharing an article along, but take some activity today. And I would encourage you to think about talking about other people in that post, you know, building your network by shining the spotlight on other people. As we're filming this is Friday, I always do a Friday shout post. I shine the spotlight on others in my network every Friday. So that's an easy technique to try.
I love that. I love that trend where you said pick maybe like you said you do Spotlight Fridays. Maybe
Yep.
yeah, pick a day to begin with to post every week or so if you want to start slow,
Absolutely.
maybe once in 2 weeks, and then we can go and improve and change from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Mhm.
It was so nice to have you, Brenda. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for coming on the show. I learned a lot from this video as well, and I'm
Oh,
sure
good.
so
I'm
did our
glad.
viewers. And we were so excited to have you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And guys, if you have any questions, feel free to message me on LinkedIn anytime. And also I would encourage you to follow my company page, Meller Marketing, on LinkedIn. I'm frequently posting LinkedIn strategy tips there as well.
Thank you. Have a good one,
Mm.
guys. Bye bye.